Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and the lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Minneapolis, a city that's been in the news a lot lately. This week was starting out already as a very violent week in Minneapolis. Joining me today is Senator Nathan Wesenberg from Little Falls, which is about 2 hours hour and a half away from Minneapolis. So
2
people
hours.
from Minnesota, is it full 2 hours?
About, yeah.
Okay, full 2 hours then. So you're not maybe as privy to some of the things that are going on in Minneapolis. I mean, it was already starting as a bloody week. I don't even know how many murders. I think it's at least two prior to yesterday's event. One that was actually near Cristo Rey, which is another private school. I think only about a couple miles down the road from this shooting yesterday. But anyhow, I wanted to do a show today, a special show, special time, 3:00 live. Most of our audience doesn't watch live, but I thought it was very important to do this show because the political chatter is on full display. Okay, not shockingly, the left has got their marching orders. It didn't take them even a day to start asking for bans on assault rifles, or what they call assault rifles. The right wants to just hone in on the transgender issues that this individual had. Meanwhile, we have a very disturbed individual, very clearly, which is detailed in the manifesto. We'll get into that. We'll get into the video. And then I want to hear, because Senator Wesenberg, you had actually an interesting comment last night. I think you had published on Facebook and maybe social media that's gotten a lot of attention. First of all, I mean, what is the chatter right now, amongst people up at the Capitol? Because this is just all of a sudden turned political. That's what I dislike, but obviously it's turned political. What can you shine a light on with that?
Well, we had a meeting today, but that was talking about just increased security around schools and things. I guess we haven't talked a whole lot about I haven't talked to a lot of people about the political things. I know right away, I saw what, Klobuchar and other Walls and people are saying about firearms and, blaming guns for things that are a mental health issue. And that's, the root cause of what's going on is we got to be able to treat these things. So I also didn't want to, I put this out around 8:30 last night because I wanted to get my thoughts concise and not just reactionary and, say what needed to be said. But you see, yeah, we're seeing people come out. Democrats are saying it's guns. Some Republicans are saying, oh, this guy's a crazy trans, whatever. And it's more than that. We have mental health issues that we're just ignoring, and we're affirming things, and we're not even allowed to say anything. My wife's a doctor, and the laws that were changed say if someone comes into her building and says they want to transition to something else, she's not allowed to try to talk to them and try to get into their psyche and find out what's going on. She just has to say, okay, well, we can do that, that's fine. Or doctors probably don't want to do that. Many don't. So then they can't say anything. They just have to say, I don't perform those services, and that's it. They can't even try to help you because it's illegal now. If a doctor would do that, they could lose their license.
Okay, let's start with who this gentleman is. Going by the name Robin. Okay, Robin Westman. I know the law enforcement says we shouldn't say the person's name. It almost seems like a mistake. Obviously this person wants to make a mark. That's why he did it. But but I also think I think this is going to happen again, where we just ignore that individual and why they did this. I already see that happening. I mean, it didn't take any time for that to happen. And it's the politicians, once again, that are just leading into this in the mainstream media. Goes by the name Robin. It's actually Robert. We actually have a picture of him as a child, Robert Westman, class of 2017. I mean, now, what do you tell from a still image? Seems like a perfectly normal, I think about 8th grader in this picture, right? And for those of us with children that are elementary, middle school age. You just think of such not quite innocent around that age, but relatively innocent, to us older adults, us sinners, right?
Yeah.
So you look at a kid like this, which by this image looks perfectly normal, um, and ends up committing an atrocity that, well, I think it leaves a lot of us stunned. We don't understand it, and I think there is a way to understand to some degree why an individual goes like that, and they write about it, right? Going back to Columbine, they wrote about why they did it.
Right.
A lot of these shooters write about it, and we have to listen to them to understand why they did it. But I see that being ignored. So let's go to just to give you an idea of that eighth grader there, class of 2017 to 8 years later, he was 23 years old yesterday before he took his own life, which, by the way, that is what these school shooters are planning on doing is essentially taking their own life. They're suicidal, but at the same point, before just offing themselves, in some irrelevant place, they're trying to show the world that humanity is so painful and so suffering, and there's no good in humanity or no great good in humanity. This is how depraved they are. That I'm going to commit the most horrible atrocity before I eventually kill myself as well, because I don't want to live in this world, is what they're thinking. And what other atrocity could you do that's more terrible than killing innocent children, right?
And like with my post I wrote, and talking about being religious and believing in God and the Christian aspect of things. You've got people that will say, people are like, well, we need to pray, which is true, but it goes beyond that. So then, because people bring up the fact that his mom worked at this school, and why did this happen? Well, just going to church or working at a Catholic school or being a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that these things don't happen. You have to, love is actually when someone's hurting, you have to help them. You can't just say, well, I'll pray for you and then go sit down and forget about it. It's hard when someone's hurting, it's hard to help them because there's things you need to talk about that maybe you don't want to talk about, but that needs to happen. So I
Mhm.
think that's part of what isn't happening. We talk to if you go talk to a counselor in school, they'll say, well, you want to be a girl or a boy? If you're a boy, you can be a girl, and that's where they leave it. We're not actually saying why. Why did this happen? And now we're not allowed to. And that needs to change. If we got young people, and even this person, if you look into it, sounds like they're deciphering the Russian and Cyrillic, whatever he was writing in, and it sounds like he may have said he doesn't want to be trans anymore. And you find many of these people, they transition when they're young teens because they're pushed to do that by adults who shouldn't be allowed to be around children, and then they get to be in their young 20s and they wish this would have never happened. So we
Or,
shouldn't
or,
be
or,
doing
or, or even if it's not directly by an individual, that's obviously the thing today, right? I mean, this person is a victim of the world of well, all the garbage that's going on in the internet, and so they're seeing this, and this person clearly doesn't have an identity, right?
that. Right.
I mean, it says in the manifesto, which I'll read. First thing I want to show you, just so you can understand just how depraved of an individual this is. This is a video that was done, shot the night before, and then he released it the morning of, so he had it scheduled. And I'm only gonna play it. Just a warning here. This is very hard for a lot of people to watch. By the way, before I go on, just in case someone in the audience is, family of the victim or real close to it, maybe just skip over this part. I want people to understand just before we get into this topic a little bit more who this individual is, but it could be very hard for someone that's just gone through this tragedy.
Here's my note to my family and shit. Wow, some English writing.
I'll read that in just a second. This has been screenshot.
Hope you can read that. Yeah. Peace, love, unity, and guns. Пока. Пока, my brata. Пока. Nine millimeter. Get fucked. This message brought to you by BlackRock and ExxonMobil. Sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon. Brandon Herrera for president. Yeah, I met Brandon Herrera at SHOT Show last year. He and I had a brief conversation, but like we agreed on a lot of things. So y'all should vote for Brandon Herrera for president. And Vintage Warfare promotes love and peace and accepting differences. Tomorrow, I'm sorry to my family. But that's it. That's the only people I'm sorry to. Fuck those kids. Skibbity. Skibbity. Shit.
Okay. And you know what? This is on MJ Truth on Rumble in case you're willing to watch a little bit more of it. I kind of want to stop it there. I almost didn't even feel like playing that one part about the kids. I mean, this person's literally a crazy person. I mean, possessed, right? Possessed by some demons. And I think the best way to explain who this person is, and this is what shocks me, is that people are still mystified by why he carried out the acts. You just have to read the manifesto. So let me grab the screenshot here of the manifesto, and let's go through this here real quick. This is this is a let's see, it's off of Evan Kilgore's account. Might have clarified the language a little bit better than what showed up on the screen. So it says, to my family and friends, I don't expect forgiveness and I don't expect any apology. I've held much weight, but to my family and those close to me, I do apologize for the effects my actions will have on your lives. Please know I care for all of you so much, and it pains me to bring this storm of chaos into your lives. This will affect so many more people than the ones that are immediately involved. To my mother and father, I am sorry I didn't turn out as you had hoped. You did not fail me. You gave, I think, me so much. I truly appreciate the love you have given me. I feel I was raised to be a good person. I've kept those traits of empathy, self-sacrifice, and good character. Please do not think you have failed as parents. I was corrupted by this world, and I have learned to hate what life is. Life is love. Life is pain. There's too much to accept, too many things to put up with just to live. I'm tired of the pain this world gives out. Please move on and continue to give your love to my brothers and sisters in the rest of the world. They may not forgive you, but you need to move on from me. Forget my life and the pain I've brought. I love you both. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry. Just imagine that saying, forget my life, right? And the pain I brought. To my siblings, I'm sorry for forever tainting the rest of your lives. Your careers, lives, relationships, all will be turned upside down. Please hold on to who you are, not who I am. Change your names if you must. I wish I could tell you before I go. Please know that I love you all and truly appreciate the time I have spent with you. I have such an amazing family, and it hurts me to throw this wrench into the works of good people. I feel hope when with you. I cherish our time together. I appreciate all that you have taught me, and I felt inspired to be like you when I grew up. I hope you are able to move on and continue your lives without being forever followed, forever haunted by my actions. Forget me and all that I am. Hold on to yourselves and your loved ones. I love you all. And to my friends, I trust you all to give the memory of me however you see fit. I am sorry for the confusion and heartbreak this will bring. I truly appreciate all of you for showing me a good life and helped me through dark times. I have had so many good times that gave me hope. Unfortunately, this world has too much pain to deal out that I can't cover up with the good sides of life. I hope you all can move on and forget the pain I've caused. I have wanted this for so long. I am not well. I am not right. I am a sad person, haunted by these thoughts that do not go away. I know this is wrong, but I can't seem to stop myself. I'm severely depressed and have been suicidal for years. Only recently have I lost all hope and decided to perform my final action against this world, right? My final action against this world. I don't want to kneel down for the injustice of this world. I want to die. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees constantly in pain. You know, what's fascinating to me, did I put this here in the comments? We watched the mainstream media. Give me a second here. I did have this somewhere in the comments section. Or sorry, I think I posted on. Yeah, here we go. Watch this.
Two
This
videos
is
that were posted
media.
have been taken down by law enforcement. And besides the suspected shooter speaking broadly about problems in the world and being suicidal, there's no clear indication of a motive outlined in the writings or the video clips. Kevin,
Okay, you hear,
all
and
those
this is KSDP. I'm guessing the report from last night. Oh, was that? I did not share that. Did that not show up on the screen?
No.
Sorry. Let me do that again. Sorry. Pretend like I know what I'm doing here.
YouTube videos that were posted have been taken down by law enforcement. And besides the suspected shooter speaking broadly about problems in the world and being suicidal, there's no clear indication of a motive outlined in the writings or the video clips.
Okay. All right. So this is why I said from the get-go, Nate, that I feel like once again we're not learning any lessons here, right? And then I'm going to show you, and you're probably privy to all the Democrats already turned this into an anti-gun thing. I mean, the writing is right there. Like those are the 2 pages. Those are the things that he flipped to in that video the night before.
Well,
Right?
it sounds like, I mean, if he is clearly has been suicidal for years, if he, I would assume he, unless he's lived alone as a hermit, that someone knows this. You know, I've been friends with people who've committed suicide and known their state for years and tried to help them and, you know, tried to get through this. So if that's what he's going through, you know, someone had to have known it. So I don't know. I mean, we can't know what they tried to do. Maybe they did try to help him. Maybe they didn't. I have no idea. It's conjecture because I don't know. But, you know, in my situation, when I had a friend that was doing this, you know, you try to get them help and, you know, it just, they're not in a good state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, you know, address that. I mean, people are always going to be suicidal, and it's just going to be, I don't want to say it is what it is, but you know, how do we, if you look at the deeper issues, and you know, he was trans or whatever, and why are we letting these things happen without even talking about it? And it sounds like he felt like he wasn't helped. So you know, his mom let him change his name when he was 17, right?
But I feel like the trans is secondary to everything, right? The trans is like, I mean, let's just be honest what the trans thing is. I mean, this guy.
I'm not saying he did it because he's. I'm just saying that that's a mental health. Yeah, obviously has mental health issues. What I'm saying,
right?
So.
It's because the trans movement, in many regards, is a joke.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's a small portion of the population that's got gender dysphoria, and a very, very small that, like.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, he wants to do that. So why didn't, when he did that, and where we are now is we can't help these people. We need to stop that. Like, if you say,
right, you got to recognize it.
We got to recognize it, and we got to get them the help they need, but we're not allowed to do that. So if we got him the help, how old is he? 20?
Well, because, and I think you put this in your post, we're living a delusion with them, right? But, oh, you're confused, and the world is nothing but suffering. You're in the wrong body. Like, that's an insane position, and that's a position we're going. So yeah, like, it's not that it's a transgender problem. Like, all these transgenders are the ones that are shooting up schools and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's the pattern of these mentally disturbed people, and then we start pushing them in this direction. It seems like,
right. That's what I was gonna say. So 5 years ago or whatever, when he decided to transition, that's when we should have stop this. That's when
Right.
we should have got the help rather than say, nope, you can do this. And then it just continues to manifest and grow into this big, ugly thing that it did.
You know, he shows sympathy for family and some friends, which is interesting. But in the same point, you know, obviously he thinks that life, and that's what's so chilling about his manifesto. And there's other points to it, and I don't want to go through them all, but it's very obvious in this manifesto, the stuff that's out there publicly, is that he thinks humanity is just completely doomed, that there's no great pleasure in life. It shouldn't say it's all pain and suffering. He at least alludes to points where he had some happiness or hope, but the hope eventually was all gone. And so it's like, so why did he do it? The motive. Oh, the motive's a mystery. No, the motive's not a mystery. Pain and suffering is all that life has to bear. And people have to understand that. And the only way they could do it is for me to enact the greatest violence I can against the most innocent parties. Because if he shoots himself in the head and he does it downstairs in his basement or wherever the hell he lives, no one's talking about him.
Yep.
He makes no mark. And so now he makes a mark. So I don't think it's like, oh, well, we can't say the guy's name, right? We can say the guy's name. That's fine. I know he wanted us to say his name, but more importantly than saying his name is to talk about how life is suffering. And unfortunately for him, and I don't know if you can help people like this, and maybe they just have to be in institutions, but it's not all bad, right? You know, he's 23 years old. His picture showed he's in 8th grade at the start. He went down that wrong road. I did see some comments here that possibly, you know, there's a good chance that he was on a bunch of drugs, you know, prescribed drugs, which is obviously a very big problem. It's a problem when they say their suicidal thoughts could be one of the side effects of that drug. So that definitely could be. We don't know that at this point.
Well, and that's the,
We kind of do, by the way.
You know, that's the tough love I'm talking about too. You know, take your kids and admit them, you know, put them in, lock them up. You're the parent. You got to stop this. You can't let this happen. If no one else is going to help him, that's what you need to do. So he can't be out. If he can't be out in society, maybe he needs to be in an institution for the rest of his life. But that's just the way it is.
Right. Okay. So you're a policymaker, and I'm perplexed here. Okay. I don't see there ever. Well, okay, let me rephrase it. I don't see in the short term a solution to this issue. This is clearly way complex than, oh, here's the easy solution. But that's what the damn Democrats are acting like. Okay, so first of all, let me just talk to the people that are not from Minnesota. Oh my God, Senator Wesenberg, how do I even begin to describe Minneapolis leadership? Because they're about to get a real radical mayor who had the Democrat endorsement, and then they withdrew it.
You could equate it to California.
I mean, I don't even think that works.
Well,
let's put it this way. The Democrats are doing, they're trying to go even further to the left with an extremist socialist. But the guy that's in charge, the mayor of Minneapolis, is like a immature little child, okay? So here he is going to the cameras after this tragedy happens, the first press conference. I mean, I don't know how else to put this, but he just looks like an immature child. Here we go. This is Jacob Fry going to the cameras for the first time.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster.
Who's he angry at?
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there, and he's been condemned for this, rightfully so. I'm sure he's not a very religious gentleman. You wouldn't make it too far in the modern Democrat Party if you were. Um, it was very puzzling watching this press conference yesterday and going, who the hell is this guy mad at right now? And I think the answer is going to pop up here as we watched last night's antics and then the press conference today. But isn't this puzzling? You're the mayor of Minneapolis, and first of all, I almost didn't even want to hear from him. I want to hear from the police chief or BCA, someone investigating. We're trying to get facts here. But if you're the mayor, you come there, you give comforting words and stuff like this. But it looks like he's angry at somebody. Is that the impression you get from him?
Yeah, I didn't watch. I hadn't watched really any of that. I think I saw the press conference by the chief of police or the sheriff or whoever it was after him. But and before you played that, you said he's acting like a child. That's over half the people that are politicians are the same. They are children, and that's another reason why we are where we are. They're not adults. They can't think.
Did we lose you?
No, he's out there yelling at something, but the act is bad, and rather than mad, what happened? This is what happened. We got issues. We got to deal with them, and we got to do it right.
And it's such a bizarre thing. I mean, in this anger, it almost looks like it's directed at us. Don't just give your thoughts and prayers. These kids were praying, and I'm just thinking, yes, prayers is exactly what we should be giving these people. So, in the end of the day, I think the people he's mad at are us, okay? And maybe more specifically, guys like you and me who advocate for the right to keep and bear arms. But I think just in general, we haven't acted according to Jacob Fry and according to the Democrats. This is I think I retweeted this last night, but this is apparently during this vigil. I had football practice last night, so I wasn't watching this, but apparently there was a vigil last night, obviously. A vigil, okay, good. We should have a vigil for the mourning and suffering of these families. But the Democrats, in normal fashion, turn it into a political rally. We first hear from Representative Angie Craig, who isn't from this district, right? So, in other words, why would Angie Craig be talking? I don't know. She's running for the U.S. Senate in Minnesota. So, okay, that's her relevancy. It's a political rally. Here is Fox 9, which was broadcasting it live, cutting their coverage of this.
That is from Lyndhurst Park in Minneapolis, just a couple blocks near Lake Calhoun there. Billed as a vigil tonight, turned into more of a rally for gun control tonight. The speakers, each and every one of them, talking about gun control in light of this morning's mass shooting.
The vigils began at 7 o'clock tonight. There was an initial vigil that was more of a service at Holy Angels School with the Archbishop.
Okay, so there you have it. Fox 9 obviously realizing that the Democrats, on the day of such a horrible tragedy, instead of, talking about the lives and all that kind of stuff, they instead go right to the old gun control calls here. We got a $5 Rumble Rat from Gunner. Gunner says, Senator Wesenberg, thank you for the outstanding spot-on post from yesterday. Question, many schools are without an armed resource officer. What can we do to ensure each school has armed protection?
It's been breaking in and out a little bit in the last minute, but I got most of that. So hopefully you can hear me all right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, and just as he says that, he cuts out.
To allow to have, firearms in a school. You obviously need to be trained and know what to do. And anyone that knows that school teachers, somebody in the school's armed, they're not going to come into that school and harm our children. Another thing that's frustrating is we had yesterday Education Minnesota, who actually tried to sue me last year for telling the truth. So this is my opinion if they're listening. They they don't care about this. They put out a post saying this is bad, but they don't care about Christianity. They don't care about private schools. They're trying to take funding away from private schools. They're not trying to help this. They're part of the problem. My money is going to pay for public education when my kids don't go to a public school. I also have written laws that I have a law that says that your money will never leave your pocket and you can use it to go to wherever. So if your kids go to a public school, you can check a box and say you take that money. But my kids use a private school. So rather than even having, a voucher, I don't even want to do that. I just want to keep my money and I can put it in the school of my choosing. So then if the public school system isn't working, we don't send our kids to public schools, we send them to private schools. Now private schools are getting defunded by public education system and they don't care. They're saying they do, but yeah, people obviously don't want kids to die. I'm not going to say that they do. They don't want that. But if they cared, they'd be working with us and they'd understand that, I have the right to teach my kids how I want and I don't want them brainwashed by, the system. So yes, we could advocate for having armed teachers, and there are people on our side that are. And, right away, I've got 3,000 shares on a post I made last night, and it's going viral, and it wasn't for political reasons though. Someone needs to say what happened is wrong, and we need to start by fixing it now. And if we don't, more kids
and addressing it the right way, right? Because the
Right.
Democrats think we can fix it, and that's
Right.
the final thing I want to share with you. And this is what the big fix is. And Jacob Fry's anger was on full display in a press conference today with all your colleagues from the other side at the Capitol. Here is Jacob Fry, his anger again with his potential solution.
Think of these kids not as somebody else's, but as your own. Think of those last words that you had with your child just this morning before you sent them into school. You kissed them on the cheek. You got them set up with their shoes. You pushed them a pouch of applesauce. Maybe these were little annoyances, but the truth is that there's this common and beautiful thing. We love our children. Make these changes not out of hate. Make them out of a simple and beautiful foundational love for our kids. And so what are we talking about? When we talk about action, we need to talk about the action steps that need to take place. We need a statewide and a federal ban on assault weapons.
All right, there's all the colleagues of yours up at the Capitol. All these are lawmakers. All these people can impact the laws. Federal and state ban on assault rifles. We know what they're talking about. They're talking about the common AR-15. The AR-15s that I own cause no crime, protect my family from, well, let's be honest, anything from any evildoer, criminal to a tyrannical government. That's why we have the Second Amendment, to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. But let's be honest, firearms also protect us from bad dudes with guns, criminals, right? Could protect kids in a school or in a church. That is not a solution. My firearms are not causing any crime, but by disarming me leaves me defenseless. What do you think the odds are that these guys get this stuff pushed up at the Capitol?
Well, they're going to push like hell to, take away these firearms, which is not going to happen. We're dealing with low IQ individuals that don't understand history. Apparently, every time this happens, we take guns away. Socialism and communism happens, and hundreds of millions of people get killed by the dictator. That's what will happen. So, taking away guns from good people that obey laws only lets bad guys create more harm. I think Maine was the first state to allow concealed carry. Their crime rates plummeted because people thought that people were going to be carrying a firearm. So I think we maybe have 33 states now. Whenever we have our constitutional carry, crime rates go down because people are afraid to get shot. Now, I'm never God forbid I ever have to shoot someone to protect myself or my family or somebody, but that's my right. I have a right to life, and the Second Amendment affords me those rights. And these people don't understand that. They're blaming an instrument that, if it's not a gun, it's something else. And, bad people are going to do bad things. I have the right to protect myself. And this is their quick fix. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I want to focus on that. And we got a $5 rumble app from the wonderful JL Jazz. We need a statewide and federal ban on liberal dipshitiots. This is exactly the point. Okay, so everyone sees this individual, and even as a full-on, Second Amendment 2A supporting American patriot like myself, and I see this guy with those guns, I go, how does this guy have guns? That's got to stop. That has got to stop. How do we make sure he doesn't have firearms? Making sure I don't have firearms is not a solution. The conversation is done. We're not having that conversation, okay? All right, there's a reason we have a Second Amendment. But how do we make sure this guy doesn't have guns? And I don't have the answer to that question, and neither do they, right? I think everyone could agree we don't want guys like that with guns, right? Just as we wouldn't want someone that wants to kill people driving vehicles in crowded places, right? Because it's a tool that could be used in very bad ways. But I just don't know that there's a solution to it. And so I feel like this is the dumbest policy they could possibly make, to just say we need to have an assault rifles ban, and then we're going to try confiscating from law-abiding citizens. And now we just took, in a matter of, it's not even a day, because quite frankly, I didn't watch the vigil last night, but I assume it was the same thing, right? As you just saw in that press conference today. You just took a tragedy that we should all be remembering these children, supporting these families in any way, and you just divided us wholeheartedly on that issue, right? Good job, Democrats. Good job. And meanwhile, you can't get rid of all the firearms. By the way, this guy could be very effective with your hunting rifles, could be very effective with shotguns. You can't get rid of all firearms. What you can do is you could probably target law-abiding citizens so they could protect themselves even less. And by the way, a lot of these things are happening in gun-free zones, so the guns aren't even present because of that reason, right? So your gun control laws didn't work. So they're not solving any issue here other than agitating the American public. This is what this little immature child that is running Minneapolis as mayor, and he's the common sense mayor candidate, which is just crazy when you think about it. These Democrats up at the Capitol, they're just stoking these flames of more division. It's also interesting to see that little girl that was to the left of him. I swear to God, that was the same girl that was holding that vigil last night. So it's like the moms demand action. The anti-gunners were right there, ready to go, ready to just take this and make this their next issue, right? And there we go. We've politicized an issue. I absolutely hate it. This is a political show. I don't even like, as funny as it sounds coming from a guy like me, I don't like making this political. There's a humanity component here, but that's what the Democrats just did. They made this thing political, and that's where they want to go with it. I'm guessing this is going to be an issue at the Capitol. Maybe the only hope is that the Capitol, they don't show up until February next year, right?
Yeah, we don't show up till February 17th. These people, let's say we ban all guns in Minnesota. So then are we going to build a wall around Minnesota so we can't go to Canada and Iowa and Wisconsin and the Dakotas? And these people just don't understand that. Let's say they're successful and they take our guns away. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying, let's say that happens. Well,
they're only going to take them for law-abiding citizens.
They're going to take them for law-abiding citizens, and these people are going to go get their gun from a neighboring state or from wherever, from across the border, from Mexico.
Or the criminals that never turned in their guns in the first place.
Correct. So it's not an option, and that's why we have to get to what's going on. Why are these people doing this? And now you're not allowed to address it in schools starting in third grade. I mean, I went to college starting in the year 2000, and I was told I was evil because I was white and all these bad things, and I just thought it was bullshit. And swear jar, sorry. So I'll have to do a Rumble rant maybe. But I heard this stuff. I'm like, this is just stupid. I thought it happens in these liberal colleges. I don't believe any of this. It's dumb. Well, now you got kids that are, at the time I was in college, are 25 years old. They've went to these liberal colleges. They've been brainwashed into believing all this stuff, and now they're teaching it to our kids. So it started in colleges. It's gone down through everything, and now in Minnesota, we're going to be telling third graders that they have to affirm people's gender. And if you have your kids going to a daycare, you can't be a licensed daycare provider now unless you are also a licensed teacher. So daycares are going to have to be teaching this shit to your kids too. And that's why all these government-run daycares are popping up all over. That's why I'm against them, because this is where it's starting, and it's going to get worse, and this stuff has to stop.
Okay, so I think everyone here wants to try to solve this issue, and anyone that makes it seem like there's an easy solution is ridiculous. And of course, Jacob Fry is playing to the lowest common denominator in brain matter, and so we're our big solution is a assault weapons ban. And if you're a leftist and you want to attribute typical political talk, maybe you would accuse Jacob Fry of placing blame on that to try to organize the base, but with no intentions of actually solving the issue, because you'll never get it passed, right? So the way I see it, and you tell me if you see it this way too, Senator Wesenberg, so to get, once again, we got to focus on the individual here, right? This isn't like some big trans militia that's all of a sudden enacted and going after kids. This isn't even like more politics. The people that want to try to tie this to politics, this kid was all over the place. He hated Trump. He hated Israel. He hated blacks. He hated Hispanics. I mean, he was all over the place when you looked at his writings. It seemed like the only people he liked was, other school shooters. Okay. So politics didn't really have anything to do with it. So how do you get to a depraved mind like that? That's what the problem is. This guy literally saw no greatness in life, no reason to carry on, and believed no one else really should carry on, that everyone should understand how that life is just pain and suffering. How do you get to that state of mind? And to me, it's like, this is a huge, complex problem that's going to take decades of reversing our culture. So let me throw one at you here real quick. Church attendance is at an all-time low. If we think that it's just us in this world, right, that there isn't a higher being, that you can't seek salvation through Jesus Christ, and you don't believe that kind of stuff, and you don't go to church, you weren't raised in a church, right? To me, that's how you get to that level of thinking. Is that fair?
Yeah. I was baptized Lutheran, but brought up in a Catholic church. Went to church a couple days a week with my grandma, and very religious family. My grandma would be a nun if she didn't have 7 kids. So, and that's where people, like they'll go like on my Facebook post or social media or whatever, or anywhere, and say, well, you're jamming Christianity down my throat. I'm like, I've never grown up a Bible and poured it down anyone's throat. I'm just telling you how I was raised, and, be good to people, treat people like you want to be treated. Don't be mean. And there are things you can think and do to yourself and do it in your basement. I can't stop it. You're an adult, but when it's affecting everybody, it needs to be handled. So, people that are brought up Christian understand and know the Bible are not Christian. There are other religions that are also good. I'm not just saying Christianity, but religions, Buddhism, and other things. You look at the religions that are good and don't have the you can make any religion bad, but you know what I'm saying. We're brought up to be good, and
a higher being, right?
higher being. And you're not, be good to people, help people. You shouldn't be selfish. You got to try to help people, and that's so you lose that when you lose the Christianity thing. Or you might have a guy like this that, well, God didn't help me. Well, he can't just sit in a room by himself and pray. Things are going to change. People around him have to help him. That's why it's where I talked about we need a mom and a dad. We need a strong family.
Okay, that was my next one right there.
And if you don't have that that strong foundation. You need a strong foundation. You need somewhere to start to build up. You can say that with life. You can say it in the scientists. You start with 1 + 1 = 2, and then we're flying to the moon. But we can't get to the moon until we have a strong foundation and we build upon that. We need to know, truth. There's our boys and girls, and and moms and dad have children, and we raise these people to be good people. Now, if you don't have that foundation, you can start off you can start off lost. And that's not saying everyone remains that way, but we have to help these people. Now, when we have a system I'm in the education policy, and I got in that because I care about our education system and teaching kids, things that are good and how to make people smart. I don't see that in our education system at all. It's just, I brought up a fact about teaching geology, and a teacher laughed at me like, you're a teacher teaching in public education and you don't even think we should be teaching geology? It was about climate change, but I'm just talking about real things. If you have an IQ above maybe 95, you should understand this. So, we're pushing ideas that aren't working. And like you said, it's a big, long thing. But yeah, so you want to talk about family. So maybe I'm going to keep rambling.
Well, that's it. I mean, that was my next thinking, is that we don't really encourage traditional families. We think that there isn't a problem with that. I mean, divorce rate is at a ridiculously high level. We have a society that thinks in relative truth and what's good for me. And I think all these things are starting to have big consequences, right?
Right.
I'm not like that there's this good time in our society. I mean, every decade has its issues, but certainly there's been a degradation in the family, certainly a degradation in people's spirituality. And so when you think about how someone gets this depraved mind, not that this wouldn't happen anyhow, there are just evil people, that does exist, but it does seem like there's a lot more of that nowadays than there was before. And to look at some inanimate object that that is actually a force of good in many people's hands, and blame it on that, and then go after people that have nothing to do with any crime or any violence, and to try to take away their firearms doesn't do any good. It doesn't solve the problem. Instead, it'd be much interesting more to see Jacob Fry have solutions in encouraging traditional families and encouraging people to go to back to church. In fact, even Jacob Fry in that press conference, I think he kind of walked this back, but says, we don't even need thoughts and prayers because they were praying at the time. And it's like, well, honest to God, I can't think of a better thing for those kids to have been doing at that time is praying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good thing, but according to him, and that was a bad thing,
Well, and one thing I'm frustrated with, and I don't go to church as much as I would like or should, but that going to church doesn't mean anything. You need to live that way. There are people that go to church and say, look, I'm in church and I'm a great person. Well, you can't go to church for a half an hour a week and the other 6.5 days a week be an asshole. And that's what people do. You actually have to believe it and be a good person. Now, everybody does something wrong at some point, but try not to be that way.
Okay, so obviously it's tough to solve some of these issues in the short term. I'm bringing up, I think a lot of the audience agrees. I think most people with common sense agrees, but I do think there is a call to there's a call to at least have some maybe temporary solutions, and those solutions, in my opinion, could be security, a little bit better security and training from just schools, and in some cases churches. This kid shot through a window, so that's a tough one, right? Like, he had this really well planned out, so who knows? But certainly armed teachers, as you had alluded to, or resource officers, somebody. I think we do need to be looking in that direction in the immediate term, because we're not going to solve this.
And we fought that, and we got it pushed back. The Democrats wanted to take school resource officers out of schools, and we pushed back, and we got SROs back into schools. But then there's an issue. Well, when can they actually touch a child if something's happening? Well, if someone's hurting someone, they need to be stopped. So now we're like, take this kid, for instance, to protect this one person with mental delusions, we're going to harm 10,000 people. That makes no sense. So you're not harming this person. Again, you're helping them. That's tough love. If someone's something's wrong with someone, you stop them. If my kid, like Paul has a great Liberty has a great analogy. If someone's bulimic or anorexic, we don't say, "Oh, they should be skinny. They can vomit. That's fine." No, we help them. So if we see someone doing something and they need help, we help them. We don't just ignore it. That's what we do, and that's what we're doing. And those are the laws we push. We ignore it. We're literally saying, "Yep, we should." And it's not. I say trans because that's what we're doing. We're passing laws to do this, but there's other laws where we're just ignoring issues and saying you can be whatever you want to be. You can be a cat, a dog. You can, life is, things aren't real, and they live in this imaginary land because they are, like you said earlier in the show, these people are children, and they've maybe never had hard times in their life, and they've never had to work, and they've never, like, I grew up poor, and my dad and mom worked 2 jobs, and I put myself through college and I worked 3 jobs, and I didn't have a PlayStation. I played with, I know I played with rocks. I had things, but I didn't have everything that everybody else had, right? So now you've got people like, well, it's not fair that I have to work more than 32 hours a week. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? So I have to work 65 hours a week, so you can only work 4 days because you just don't want to? It's not how it works. Yeah.
I just emphasized a post here, just give a good example. And I don't know how you ban somebody on here. There's got to be a way to ban on it. But like, there's some weirdo like that's trolling, sleeping. It's like this is a disturbed individual, like
Right.
like someone that would do something like that. It's funny. It's not like a funny troll. It's like, what's even going through your head at this point?
Right. No, it's
talk to somebody. I mean, if you really think that there's no hope for humanity, you're on the wrong course. Okay, there's some real good in life.
Right.
Don't go down that road. That's a very
and that's the struggle sometimes. Like when I say something, you get the haters or whatever. You don't engage, but you get the haters like, you're wrong and you're mean. Or even Tim Walz, like, he'd call me mean for saying I'm not mean. I'm being an adult and talking like an adult, and you lack those skills. Apparently you shouldn't be in the leadership role you're in. I have children. If my child kicks one of our dogs, I say that's wrong. I don't encourage that behavior. I say, don't kick the dog. And now you're going to clean up dog poop for a week, and you're going to do the dishes, and you're grounded, and you don't get to play on your tablet. But some parents would say, well, don't kick the dog. That's mean. And they do it again, and then they ignore it. And it's a never ending cycle. It never gets corrected.
Right. Do you want to stick around a little bit? I'm going to go to our post show for our premium insiders here. I want to get a little bit more on the personal side with you. We'll talk about that. I do have an 8 and 10-year-old at home. The 2 children that were killed are 8 and 10. I know a lot of people felt the way like I did yesterday, like, oh shit, you just want to hug your children. That's all you want to see, right? I feel so bad for the families that lost their children yesterday. And certainly the ones that are still recovering. I think the most recent update is there's still one that's in critical condition, and some that are in I don't know, whatever the grade below that is. And there was, I think, 3 people over the age of 80 that went to the hospital as well. So I'm thinking, and I think from what I understand, Annunciation Church Mass was a tradition of the first day of school. Maybe that was a fun thing for like grandparents to attend, or maybe some parishioners or something like that. But it was interesting that there was 80-year-olds. Okay. LK Live says this person had a severe mental illness. Based on that alone, should not have had a gun. Yeah, everyone agrees with that. Everybody agrees with that. Question is, how do you find that out? Right? That's what we don't have the answer to. And I don't know if there is an answer to it. But if someone could figure that part out, good. But Jacob Fry certainly doesn't have an answer to that.
Well, the Democrats handicapped that there by saying you can't help these people. You have to affirm it. That has to flip. That has to be changed. We see this. People need to know about it.
JL Jazz says, Senator Wesenberg, the statement you put out was beautifully written and spot on. Your words have great meaning. Okay, let's get into that too when we go to our premium insiders. If you're not a premium insider, you can join us by, I don't have the link here. Hold on one second. I'll grab that real quick. Right there. Okay, I'm going to post the link. If you are not a premium insider, you can join us. Join us here This helps make our show work. We're on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. We've been coming live usually at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to have a little change of schedule. Talk about that in the post show as well. Today I wanted to do a show a little later. I wanted to get as much information, get the news cycle going all throughout the day so we can kind of learn a little bit more about this guy. A lot of people are working full time and they use this show to get some of that information. So that's what I wanted to provide for you today. If you are premium insiders, we'll see you in about 30 seconds. If not, we'll see you next week. Take care.